Hello YouTube, this is BUB'S Comics coming at you with a quick comic repair video. Ceremonial sip. Alright, let's see what we got. Now, I can't exactly remember what all... I haven't looked at these books in a while, but I can tell you that this was my first copy of Daredevil number 9. I was picking up all these Wally Wood covered for Daredevil, and then I went and decided to go back to some of the earlier covers and decided to go all the way across from Daredevil 1 down to Daredevil number 11. So this was one of the first ones that I picked up. I was really excited to get it because it was a cool Wally Wood cover, and then I saw that. I was like, oh man. So the Comics Code box is ripped out, but it kind of I didn't see it at first. And then, as you can see, the spine totally chewed and destroyed. I've seen worse. There's a little piece of tape there. Who knows what that's doing? Can't be holding much on. But the biggest thing that I did not see in this book, just because there's so much going on, is this right here. How did I miss that? And that's some kind of blue acrylic paint or something like that. I mean, I couldn't even tell you what that is. So anyway... this book, I don't know if there'll be much to salvage on this book, but since then I've picked up another copy. Now, I can't remember. I know that this copy I picked up for under $10, so it was an easy. It's not like I wasted a bunch of money. And this book, I feel like I picked up for under $10 as well. So what happened is that now we have two books. I think this one might be missing the centerfold. I'm not quite sure. Let's check out the beat up book first, the more beat up book, and see if there's anything else going on with it, or if it's more salvageable than I thought. There's pieces in the bag still. It's always a good sign. Always close that back up to make sure that nothing, no tape pulls. All right, let's see what we got. Well, you can see that corner cut out there like I thought, right? It is not attached. So it's completely detached from the book. Looks like some of that blue paint bled onto the book most of the way through. Let's see where it ends. Right about there is the last page without any blue ink. So between page 14 and 15. So this 15, of course, though if you're going to take an entire wrap, you end up with more than that, right? Because you end up with the earlier pages as well. So really no full wraps will be without any ink. Let's take a look at the centerfold here. Page 13, then centerfold add, which should be correct, and then page 14. So it is correct. We're not missing anything here. So this book is complete. Of course, we'll double check the back, but I'm pretty sure... I was pretty sure this book was complete to begin with. So, yeah, and it's in good shape. The end, yep. All right, so we got a complete book there. Looks like this cover has been reinforced with tape here and here on the opposite side, and then, of course, that tape has bled through. So, oh, cool bookstore stamp that says Wally's Paperback Book Exchange, 2301 South Craycroft, Tucson, Arizona. So any of my Arizona subscribers know this bookstore, leave a comment on the video and let me know if that's something you're familiar with, if it's still there. You know, don't make me hunt that down. So, and it looks like there's some pieces of cover missing, but still kind of there. So they're not totally missing all of it. Some of it's just folded over. So, but pretty rough shaped cover altogether. And unfortunately, the interior does have that blue mark. Last page is a little tore up too. It's not in great condition. Tons of damage to the side. And probably worst of all is this corner here looks completely shearing off. And it doesn't look like chew, so it just looks like it got bent and the whole thing got ruined. Could be chew, but usually chew is less even. So it's probably just a bend where it was stored and something crushed it. And just sat like that for so long that it destroyed itself over time. So that's the quick overview of this copy. Now let's take a look at this copy and see. This is the second copy that I purchased. Also for very cheap, which tells me there's probably something wrong with it. I can't remember what it was. I bought these books months and months and months ago with the intention to do this and just never got around to it. Let's first look at the cover. There's some brittleness there, some discoloration, some staining, a couple of rips. There's one here. There's one up here. So it's not a perfect cover. This was never going to be a perfect book altogether. Oh, look. Now this one is also fully detached. So that's the first thing I always like to check. It's fully detached and completely, almost, what'd you say, 3/4 of the way split? Look at that. So here's where it meets back up. Most of the front cover is intact, however. And some of the back cover is missing, just very little, but not much. So actually this cover is not too bad. We're not trying to make a 9.0 out of this thing. So a little bit of dirt or something on the cover there. Don't know if that'll come out, but even if it doesn't, it's better than the other one. So it may be able to come out. Looks like a little bit of color rub from another book, so we'll have to see if that comes out. We didn't really prepare for cleaning today. We're just going to do a little bit of repair. So property of Tom Lopez. Now we know why it was so cheap. So again, both these books less than $10 each, and significantly, this was like $7. I think this was like $7, so probably less than $15 in both of them. Property of Tom Lopez. If anybody knows Tom Lopez, of course, Thomas G. Lopez is his full name. He was in Sacramento, California at the time, so he had his own little stamp that he put on there. That's cool. Let's see if this is complete. We've got the same splash page here. Pretty cool interiors on this book. All right, now we know the centerfold should be somewhere around page 13. Here's 9 and 10. Here's 11, 12. And here is the centerfold, which is complete. 13, here's the, and the interior on this is fantastic. Very clean. No rips. No nothing. Is it centerfold? I think, let me check those staples again. Seems like there's something going on when I move them. Nope, they're in. They're tight. So nothing wrong with that. A little bit of a tear on this page here. There, that's not too bad. We can handle that. Probably, I don't usually do too much reinforcement on interior pages. I just kind of let them be. But the, of course, the cover pages I do work on. So, okay. So this book is also complete. Little bit of a roll on there, but not too much. Certainly serviceable. It's within the realm of still being a Silver Age size bag and board. And the cover's not too bad either. So the biggest issue is this property of Tom Lopez and Thomas G. Lopez crap. Which isn't unbearable. But what do you guys think? Should we take the front wrap of this book, like which has the better wrap, right? That's the tough call. So this one, of course, has all this stuff all over it. You know, and this one does not. The condition of this wrap is poorer than this wrap. And that's written in pen. Let's move our cover because we've decided that's definitely the better of the two covers. Now, some people might say that they like the idea of having the writing on the interior and stuff, but and I do like the stamp. If it was only the stamp, I would probably leave it. But the property of Tom Lopez written down there, that makes it a little rougher. Now, both these are intact, so the only issue would be, let's take a look at this back page too. Man, it's significantly rougher. I don't know. Has a scratch there. This is a really tough call. You guys need to let me know in the comments what you would have done in this situation. I'm all on my own on this stream, so it's a tough call. I really like that stamp the kid put on there. Really not crazy about the handwritten property of. You know, I was going to swap these out, but I have to say, I like the stamp. I think it's cool. That part I'm not as much a fan of, but I really like the stamp. And the wrap is in significantly better condition than the other one. So I think we're going to keep this one intact. And this was the second issue that I had purchased. So we're going to keep... We're not going to marry any wraps. We're not going to trade out any wraps. Let me know again in the comments if you guys think I'm making the right choice or what you would have done. So we're not doing any of that. So it looks like this book is going to remain as beat and complete as it is. And this will move into the giveaway / sell in a pile of books group. And then we'll move on from that. So let's see if we can get that in there without losing too many more pieces. All right. So that book is in there now. All right, now let's take a look. We know what the story is on this. We're going to have to pull those staples and reset them into the cover so that we can have an attached cover. So we'll set that aside real quick. And we'll take a look at this. First thing I like to do is just kind of size it up, see how much repair is going to be needed. It's definitely going to be a tape job. I've switched from using my big package opening knife. This is the one I use because it's got a nice heavy handle and everything. But I've kind of switched to using just a more small, delicate knife, which is also very sharp, but delicate. So that I can flip up pages in pieces. So this one has, by the staple, you can see that has a fold over where that was. So we're just going to gently catch the underside of it and then flip the blade over and see what we're working with. So it looks like it's got a tear here and here, but there's more of the book, looks like, also flipped over all along the spine. It looks like that black part is flipped over. We may be able to save that as part of the book. That gets tough. Sometimes you're better off letting a piece go. I actually, often after I've repaired a book, I'll shake it. That way, no other parts. If there's anything else that was going to come off, then it will come off. So, all right. So the first thing I like to do is the periphery and any easy or close parts of the cover that need to be worked on here. Let's look at the back cover. That looks straight, even. All right. So here's my document repair tape. You can get it on Amazon or your preferred, store. Works great. Lineco makes this brand, but makes this particular one, but there's others. I've heard other people use them and say it's really hard to get the tape away. I don't have that problem. And of course, I say that, and now I have that problem, right? But basically, I just always cut an extra piece of backing and make sure that the backing is always longer than the actual tape. And as long as you do that, you should be in good shape. And some people will say, oh, why aren't you using gloves and all this kind of stuff? That gets a little bit ridiculous, in my opinion, when you're just repairing a, this is not a big key, high-dollar book. Of course, you never know what tomorrow's keys are going to be, but to my knowledge, there's nothing real major about this other than it's an early Daredevil. So that's the size that I'm going with right here. What's nice, too, is that with this matte finish on the inside where the glue is, there's you don't really have to worry about fingerprints, whereas on a shiny tape, you do. So I just kind of hold it down in one spot, and I work my way towards the trouble spot. So if you can see right here, there's a very minimal amount of tear through on there. So we're going to cover that first. And I like to try and work along borders. So right here, there's like a little black border. So I'm going to try and match up to that border. So that's matched up there. I'm going to turn this a little bit. We want to make sure that we get as much contact on there as possible. So and then we just kind of smooth that out. It's not going to be perfect, but it's in there. And this stuff's pretty strong, so one piece is usually all you need. Another thing I like to do is, now this didn't have very much bleeding through the other side, so it's not going to get stuck. But like up along this area, there's probably going to be a lot more bleed through of the tape on the other side. But I look for places that are already connecting, and I work with those first. So right there, that already connects. So if we put a piece of tape there, we'll kind of use that as a guide for the rest of it. That way we know we're not too close or too far. If you're not real careful in doing this, you will you'll start here, and as you work your way, it'll start to split or spread or overlap. Either way is not good, right? You want it to be as even as you can get it all the way across. Otherwise, you end up with a wrinkle. Always work on a relatively flat surface. Now this has a big rip across it, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I just rub it gently to make sure that it's got good contact. But see, now I have, and that was the other tape. I think that might have been close to where the other staple was. All right, we're going to use that as a pretty wide piece. Now let's see how it looks from the other side. Yeah, color is intact. Everything's relatively straight. That's going to be on the spine anyway. Now you see here, there's a bunch of pieces of spine here. Sometimes I take a break from the spine. So I'm going to take a break real quick, and I'm going to look at other parts. So right here, there is a spot here that's flipped over. And some people probably wouldn't fool with those little tiny spots. But those are the little, whenever you see a break like that, that's the part that's going to break off. You know, that's the part that when people touch the book, it's going to break, or you stick it in a bag, it's going to break. So we're going to get our little knife under there. We're going to gently flip it. And I kind of press it down to push the fibers back into place. You still want to be gentle with it, because if you don't, it'll of course break. And then just put a small piece of tape across it. That's it. And that reinforces that little piece. You'd be surprised, the more of those you do when you turn the cover over, you'll see them. You'll see that it's been repaired from the way it used to look, if you remember how it looked before. So there's no little rip up here. And I'm just doing this because now that the spine is fortified and it's not going to come loose and break apart and stuff while we're working, then I'll be able to go back and work on some of these more closely. But, you know, I don't have to worry as much about tearing into it. So, and I don't worry about tape. We're not trying to hide the tape. We're not pretending the tape's not there. This is so that this book can continue to be read and not destroyed. So now this is a bend. So now, of course, on the other side, that's probably color breaking. But that, you can feel how quickly that moves when you touch it. That's just a simple... there's no rip here. There's no tear here. But what's going to happen is, after a while, that spot's just going to snap. And it's just going to be a broken piece. So we'll go ahead and reinforce the corner here a little bit. And I overdid it a little bit on that tape. So this is where it gets tricky. Because you don't want to tear up any of the book or trim any of the book, but you do want to trim a little piece of that tape off. And that worked fine. So, oop, there's another little piece. So anyway, this gets kind of tedious. Sometimes it take, 20, 30 minutes to get a book done. I'm going a little slower today because I'm trying to show you and keep it in the camera and stuff. Usually it's a little faster than this. There's another little piece. And it's funny, it's a little over trim, so we'll fix that. I'm sure that, to viewers it'll look more kind of trouble than it's worth, if you will. But when you're done, you'll be very happy with the results. Here's some more rips here, and we're going to work on that one too. So when it comes to the rips, the first thing I check too, as you've noticed, or maybe noticed, is I check to see which side the rip is supposed to be on. So sometimes when it rips, it'll take a piece of fiber from either, or color from the front or the back, and in kind of a shale type way where it's layered into the paper. So you want to make sure that you are flipping it the correct way. That way you don't, seal in a big white crack in there when you didn't have to. Because if you flip the paper the other way and put the rip part on top, then maybe you avoid that. So I'm using a pretty big piece here because this must have been a pretty big rip. And we're going to seal that up too. And again, for the advertisement pages, I don't really care that much. The back cover is not a big deal. Or this interior cover. We'll trim that little piece of tape. Let's see what else we got. That looks good. There's another little rip right next to it. Okay. So you see, like, I've already used all this, and you'll see what I'm going to use it for in a minute, which is why one of the reasons I work towards the middle after I do the main sticks. So you just kind of look. See, more's coming out. And I don't cut this off, and I'll show you why in a minute, because we're going to use it. It's very helpful. Here's another piece. Let's move these over a little bit. Give us more room to work. And again, this is not some professional, restoration. This is more of a conservation to keep the book the way it was meant to be, readable. This is not a book I'll be sending it to CGC or anything like that. At least I don't think so. And the value of this book would have to raise dramatically for that to be a reasoning. All right. And then like that piece, I just pull that off. I mean, it's on the back cover. It's a tiny little piece, and it's not worth taping back on because it's not going to change the presentation of the back cover any. So that little piece here, we worked on some there. We're going to work on a little bit more there. Now, I used to use if you've seen in previous videos, perhaps, I used to use a giant backing board, like a Life magazine size backing board. But I found every now and then, and it was rare, but every now and then I would make a mistake and the tape would stick to it. And holy moly, what a mess. So tough to get that tape off after it stuck to that backing board without damaging and pulling the book and all this kind of stuff. So didn't want that to happen, so I quit using that. I still use it to clean, but I don't use it to repair. Now there's a lot of this book, so now you'll see in a minute why I worked on the outside first. There's a little bit more. I mean, you could do this for hours, finding each little tiny piece. But you're really, to me, if there's damage already there, then that signifies a stress point in the book that was taken under normal use. And so since I'm going to use the book normally, I want to make sure I fortify those and stop them from happening again, or to continue to damage. All right. All right. I think we've got that pretty well done. So you'll see here that there's quite a bit of, it might be difficult to see on the camera, but there's quite a bit of color in there that can be put back into the book by flipping it over. But we're going to be taping. There's still going to be gaps. So what I do is, you know, I've been using this, right? So I cut it. I leave a little bit of space so I can still pull it away from the tape. Now I have this. Now what's the point of this? The point of this is that one side is going to be very slick and the tape won't stick to it because that's what it came on originally. So I take this and I put it under the book, like so. Can you see that? So it's under the book. And I do that so that when I start to tape in that place, if the tape touches that, I'm not sticking the book to the table, which sucks if you ever have that problem. Use a little bit more, and this kind of acts as a dispenser, this box, if you open it properly according to the directions. The only bad thing is that you don't really know how much is left. Kind of got to shake it around and see how much is left. All right, so let's start flipping some of this over. Nice. I mean, there's a lot. There is a lot of this. This is that Marvel black edge to the spine that they put on a lot of books. And we're just kind of putting it back where it goes. Once upon a time, it got bent backwards. There you go. So that's all back the way it goes. What a big difference. That's going to make a near complete cover on this side, on the spine. And I just kind of press down real hard and kind of give the fiber a little bit of memory, so it remembers how mad I am at it and it acts right this time. Make sure that that's still in place. It is. Now, I usually work in small pieces, but every now and then, really, I'll still work in small pieces for this one. Because you don't want to put too much on there. So I just kind of work my way up. That way I can hold it steady as I go. And I start in a spot where it doesn't need it, and then I roll my way towards the spot that needs it. So now that's part is solid. And there was a natural break in there, so I just kind of used that break as a guide. Now you can pull a whole long strip and do it like that, but I don't recommend it. It gets a little tricky to maneuver. Like I said, I put it there, and then I kind of roll that way. Look at that. I mean, you'll be amazed. You saw the big hole in there, so you'll be surprised at how that gap cleans right up. Or at least I'm always surprised, pleasantly, of course. And I roll it in the direction that the fold needs to go. There you go. And nothing sticks to this, of course. Look at that difference. See, it has the entire black edge back again. We did that. It was flipped on the inside, and if you've noticed, no tape on the outside of the book yet. And maybe not at all. We'll see how it goes. Alright, let's see if there's any more. This doesn't look to have had as much, but yet there is some there. There was a natural break in the book, and that's why we chose this spot to start and stop when we did our quick connect. Yep, there's a little bit more there. Hey, more than it looked like. We have a near complete spine, folks. Well, you can see that kind of coming together. I love seeing that color. You see that color, you know you can fix it. Or at least try. Now sometimes you do this and it's just so brittle, it just snaps right off. But this is Silver Age. It's not as brittle as the Golden Age ones that I work on. So, stick this under there. You can see it kind of sticking out there. I like to kind of hold the spine down flat to make sure that it's still lining up, and it is. Alright, let's take a few more pieces of tape and we'll finish this spine up. What do you say, fellas? And ladies, if any is watching. I usually go a little bit over on the piece of tape that was already there. That way I complete it, otherwise you'll end up with a real easy break point. Like I said, you know, this is so this book can continue to be handled. And you may say, Bub, what are you doing? How much is that tape? I mean, you're putting what they would call, probably CGC would call, copious amounts of tape. Well, I am putting copious amounts of tape on this because I want it to be functional and readable. And again, if you don't keep this book flat as you work, you know, constantly keeping it, making sure it's lined up, then it will have a bend or ripple or a bubble in it, and it'll be very difficult to ever get that out. Like a pressing won't get that out because it'll just actually create a crease, a worse crease in the book if you tried to press it out. So you're kind of stuck. Once you get going in a certain direction, that's the direction you got. Boy, that's sealing up nicely. Hope you all remember how it looked in the beginning. Maybe you do a little before and after. And you know, if this video is longer than you guys want to spend watching someone repair a comic book video, you can skip to the end. That's fine, won't hurt my feelings. This falls under the realm of I would have been doing this anyway, so I might as well film it. So here's an interesting part. So we come to this top edge right here, and you see that there is a triangular break. Now I have two options. First of all, the paper's not there. It's not there. It's not on the front cover. It's nowhere to be found. It's chipped away. It's gone. I can either run the tape all the way up to that edge and seal it up, which would be strongest for the book. But then on the opposite side, I'll have a piece of exposed tape. And over time, if that sits in a bag or gets pressed against another book, you could end up with a tape pull of some kind against another book. Because this is super strong tape. Very, very, very strong. Once you touch something, it's on there. There's no getting it off without removing color and everything else. And fiber and ripping it, basically. So you have to be very careful when working with this, because once you start, you can't stop. It's on there. I could put it there, or I could put a piece on the other side, on the outside of the cover, and kind of reinforce it from that side, and then the tape wouldn't be exposed because they have another piece of tape over it. Now, if this was a book where I intended to put something along the outside of the spine, which I don't generally do, but sometimes it's required, then I would do that. But in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it long ways. That way I get a little extra fortification. And I'm going to basically run it right up to where that is. And then stop short. That's the goal anyway, if I could see. So I ran it right up to that break, but I did not go past that line. It's still there. It's right below this break. Now, that's not the most sound way to do it as far as structure goes. Nothing stuck, but look at that. You can see that. A full, complete black bar there. The only part that's messed up is over here by the staple. We're not too worried about that because we're going to be playing with that in a minute anyway. And that's what that extra piece is for, so that you don't stick yourself to the table or to a backing board or whatever material you're working on in the back. Back cover looks alright. Nothing too major on that. Looks pretty solid. Alright. So, Now we're going to put this original, even though the property of, this is still the one that came with it. First, let's just look at it. So that's how it's going to look when it's done. And you can see that the black line has been more or less reconstructed with only one spot bad, and that's where the staple was. One of the staples. The rest of it was all there. No tape on the outside, and now look how easily this thing opens. No problem. You can pull on it. It's very strong. No issues whatsoever. All right. Say, what are you going to do now, Bubsy? I'll show you. So the issue now is that we want this book attached to the, we want the cover attached to the book. That's the best, you know, if you're going to look for a best case scenario, that's best case scenario. Now I've seen some people, they will actually tape the book to the cover, but I really don't like putting tape on interior pages. It just never looks as good. The other nice thing about this type of document tape is that when you heat it up, it goes near invisible. So all these little like kind of white patches, if I gave this book a press, a nice press, it just kind of disappears. I mean, they're still there. There's some ghosting to it, but it doesn't turn yellow the way you know, a celluloid-based tape would. So you're avoiding that mess. So it's looking good in my estimation. All right, now let's see. What's interesting is that there's still a little bit of a spine roll. And since that part of the cover has not been used, it's like, hey, where am I going to go? Well, we'll fix that. All right. So we're going to move the cover out of the way. We're done with it for now. Okay. And then we're going to crack the staples off this sucker. And I think it was between 14 and 13. Yep. Again, using the same piece of the knife. I'm going to work my way up. Usually hold down the staple with the rest of my thumb, my other thumb, so I can catch that one piece. And you don't really want to tear into the book, so you're just trying to catch just a little piece of it and then pry it up by just that top piece. And you're trying to get it as straight as you can. Okay? Now we're not changing staples. We're gonna keep these staples. So again, you want to be real careful. Try and get what you can out off it. Hold it as steady as you can. Now I'm going to grab the other piece of the staple there that I just lifted up and use it as a brace so I don't pull it against the book. And make sure that it stays steady, or I might rip the whole staple through the book, right? We don't want that. All right. So now you see that staple, see if you can get in on that. That staple is pretty much straight up and down, and that's the way I want it. And before I take it out, I'm going to work on the other one as well. Okay. I'm going to hold that staple. This one's being a bugger. That other one is dug in pretty deep. All right, we got it. All right. 2 staples opened up. Now here's the part that everybody forgets. Remember where you put the staple, and remember the direction it was when you pull it out. And now you're getting this staple out, so I lay it straight the way it was. Just like that, looking at the book straight at. And do the same thing with the lower staple. I just use my fingers when I can, but this one's because you don't really want to put any kind of bend in the staple. You're just kind of working it out. It'll come. There it goes. Just the way it was. You take it out, you put it back just the same way. So that's the key to that. You don't want to overdo it. All right. So then I take... Let's see if I have one handy. I don't have one handy. That's okay. We can use the staples. So I leave the staples right where they're at. I'm not messing with them. Putting my book inside. Lining that up nicely. And now some people might just stick the staples in, you know, wherever they go. I try and get it back in the original position that it was. Just try to. Doesn't always work out, but you try your best. If you try for excellence and fail, you'll still probably get second place. So, which is much better than no place or last. So you can see where the original holes were here and here, now that it's been reattached or recreated. So you see that? You can see the original holes matching up. This is how they can tell if covers have been married and are not original. Those holes got to match up. And they do perfectly. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and work. I work in the, you know, opposite direction than I started. So this was the second staple I pulled out. So it'll be the first staple I put back. And you can kind of see where it is. And you just pluck it through. Alright, let's pluck through the tape in roughly the same location as it was. Doesn't have to be exact, but you don't want to be ripping through the book. That's the key. And we'll go ahead and put the other one in because it's tough to work on without it. You can hear the tape rip, which is what we're looking for. All right. All right. And you see those tapes are both tapes held up. So staples are in. Now some people go wrap by wrap. Now I'm good with that, but every now and then, the more you work that staple, the more it's going to tear a little bit of the tape and make larger holes for the staple, and that makes it less strong. So I usually try and do it all together with the centerfold. It's tougher, but I feel like it's worth the extra work to do it that way. So you see that it's this side that I'm working for. I'm trying to get in. I take my hand, kind of use it as a guide. I got my other finger on the other side so I can kind of feel where it's going. Alright, I got one in. And I got the other one in. Now you got your choice now. You can either seal this up and work on that. In this case, because the spine was already damaged, that's what I'm going to do. But in other cases where the spine is more pristine, then I'll try to actually work them both in at the same time without closing it. And I do that because it's less stress on the staple and the spine when you do it that way. Of course, it's more stress on you. All right, you just bend it right back over the way from whence it came, as they say. Try not to let it wiggle too much. Okay. All right. And I just kind of give it a last tap with this. Make sure that it didn't cause any new marks. All right. Now, this book is already better. It's attached at one staple. All the way through. That's already a big win. All right, now you see we still have this part to go. Old Tom would be proud. That's the owner of the book, right? Tom Lopez. Now see, now this staple is bent pretty bad. So we probably need to go ahead and fix that, or we're going to have a hard time getting it back in. And what I do for that is that I use this side. It's like a mini Leatherman. And I just try to get it as close down to the base as I can. And have that line up. If I had seen it before, I'd have done it before I put it in the book. But since I didn't, I didn't. Alright. With any luck, that'll be all that needs. Alright. Let's find our centerfold back again. Our newly attached centerfold. This next page. Here it is. Alright, and I'm putting my fingers, can't see, I'm putting my fingers right up against the centerfold so that I can feel when the staples make contact. Kind of want to get the staple pulled out just a little bit so that you have some control over it. Again, this is the hardest part. Alright, got one in. Alright, now we hit a snag. So I'm going to bend the staple a little bit, just so it stays hooked. And I pulled it out a little bit too far from the book. I'm going to put that back in. Alright. You see it still lining up nicely. Alright, it's in. And there it is. In the original holes. Or relative proximity. Alright. That one done. Okay. And this book is reattached at the staples. And you see that line break. That's original, I guess, to the book. Look at that. And for the proof in the pudding, look at that. Fully attached cover. Every page is, you gotta make sure you didn't punch through somewhere. Everything is on there. There you go. Centerfold still attached at both staples. There's the staple. There's the two staples, centerfold. We got here. 17, 18, 19. All right. And then you still see a little bit of the tape on there too, which is fine. And again, if you were to press this, that tape would become near invisible. Here you have this. There you go. Daredevil number 9. I thought I was going to have to marry wraps and maybe covers, but I didn't. It looked like the second purchase I made was far better than the first. The only thing was writing on the inside splash page. I think that stamp is cool. I think that's not so much, but I'll deal with it for the price I paid. And I still got one to give away or get rid of. So there you go. Daredevil number 9. Reattached cover, what we'll say. But not married. I thought I was going to have to get married, so that's nice. And we'll drop this in our little bag. And now it's totally readable again. Ready for action. And what's funny about this book is that if you were to, well, I don't know if it's funny, but if you had like CGC to look at this book, it would be conserved, potentially. But because it's low grade already, it would probably just get a blue label and then they would note the tape on there. You know, some tape seals may be green, but it would not be purple. So it would not be purple because it is not truly restored. It's just conserved. Maybe it'd get a silver label for conserved if it was a higher grade. But basically all it means is that there's some tape in there, which is a perfectly acceptable method of repairing comic books. So now if I had glued that spine to it, purple label all day. But and also if I had taken the staples out and put new staples in, purple label. And they really don't like it when you tape the cover to the book, which some people do. I don't know why they would do that. To me, it's just laziness. You can get those staples out, you can put them through, and your worst case scenario is maybe you pop a page off it or something, but it's still better than a completely detached cover reattached with tape. So, there you go. There's your Daredevil number 9. Hope y'all enjoyed that. This one's going on the block. We'll get that out of here, out of the collection. Say sayonara to the extra blue. And we'll catch you next time on BUB'S Comics. I hope you enjoyed that. I know it was long. Feel free to fast forward through all of it and see how it turned out. But that's a little bit of comic book repair. This is what I do. So, all right. Talk to you next time. Remember, read a comic, repair a comic, and don't apologize for the fresh glare. Bye-bye.